Everyone, this is Rastjel Amos and welcome to my last video in the series of how to code in Vim. So I promised to do this video about what are Vim plugins and other stuff. So let's look at the outline of this video. So here it is, of course written in Vim. So firstly we'll talk about how to configure Vim. So it's basically about .vimrc file. Then we will go through some of the vimrc configs, for example, general configuration, leader mapping and so. Then what is Powerline and how to install it. And lastly go through some of Vim plugins. For example, NERDTree, CtrlP, Synctastic, Dailymade and so on. So there is a lot of things to talk about, so let's start. Firstly, let me move this a little bit. I did my research and this can't be hidden, so it needs to stay here. I need to switch to another video recording application, but later on that. Okay, so first, how to configure Vim. So Vim is configured through a file called .vimrc. It is usually located in your home directory. So for example, in Mac, it is in my home directory, and in Ubuntu and other Linux-based system, it's also in the home directory. And it's a hidden file, so it's best to open it in Vim. So vim.vimrc. If you don't know how to navigate and how to work with Vim, be sure to check out and watch my previous video in this series. It's all about it. So let's open this configuration file. And as you can see, it's quite huge. It has almost 800 lines. Wow. And don't worry, I haven't written all of these. I have just copied it from somebody else who has done all the work. I just edited it to my needs. Yes, so don't worry about these lines. I will talk about them later, but let's look at some general configuration. So, general, all right. So for example, this means set clipboard that I'm sharing my clipboard with the system clipboard. So I can, if I do yang, if I select a line and then yang it, I can just copy to browser, for example. It's quite useful if you do coding in your Vim. Then there is some directories for Vim temporary files. You can use mouse in Vim if you configure this. And so you should really check out this file in my GitHub repository, my computer.files. The link will be included in the description of this video. And I really recommend you to go through this file and look at the comments in it, so you can see what each of these configs does. Yes, so for example, these are the basics. All right, now let's look at some, for example, Vim UI. There is some color scheme, colors, and some incremental search as you type, and all of stuff. I don't really know what each of these does, so yes, but it's quite good to look at it sometimes. And now, for example, let's look at mapping. Mappings is the mapping of keys. So if you type some commands, you can create your own commands in Vim. For example, if I type F1, I don't know what it does. F5 will run something, but this file cannot be run, so forget about it. And for example, in Vim has window panes. So if I type comma and W, it will open a new window, and I can switch between windows like this. And it is configured here in these lines. It's C means control and H is the key H. So it's like moving in Vim with H, J, K, and L. So I can move in Vim windows with the same keys. For example, I can move to the right window with Control and L and move between the windows. But let's close this window. All right. So some configs. For example, JJ exits insert mode instead of escape. It's mapped like with I no remap JJ. It's mapped escape. So for example, if I type JJ, it exits the insert mode. That's cool. All right, and now let's look at let's go down a little bit and let's look at leader mapping. Leader in Vim is a special kind of character. My leader is configured to be comma, and I don't know exactly what leader means, but I know that if I type comma and some commands defined here, it will do some cool things. For example, if I type leader and ev, it will open in new tab, in new window, it will open my Vim configuration file. So it doesn't matter in which file I'm editing with Vim. I can always type leader, in my case it's comma, and ev, and it will open Vim configuration in other window. So I can configure Vim right away. For example, yes, so leader plus W will split this file and switch to it. So that's what I am doing now. I'm pressing leader, it's my comma, and W, and it opens a new window, new Vim window. So it's pretty cool. You can have a split code view. You can open files like this and split it. All right. Now, all right. So this is the basic Vim configuration. It's 800 lines long because it has some more cool stuff here. Abbreviations, language specific configurations. Wow. For example, CSS, HTML. I don't know what this does, but it's probably that if you open a file which ends in HTML, it will set some configurations. For example, it's probably spacing. If you type a new line, it will probably make 2 spaces or 2 tabs or something like that. So it's settings for specific file. You need it for if you want to code in Vim. All right, so let's forget about this. And let's move to the second point. So yes, how to configure Vim? You configure it in .vimrc. I really recommend going through all of these configs and look at what it does, and so it can help you to work to configure the Vim as you would like to have it. All right. Now, what is Powerline? Powerline is this line you can see down here. So it's this nice thing that I'm having here that shows the mode I'm in, for example normal, then the name of the file, and then some other useful things like it's UTF-8, and I'm at the 33%, my caret is at the 33% of the file, and so you can see this. So that's Powerline. For example, if I jump into insert mode, it changes into insert, and also if I open a GitHub repository, for example, let's create a new Git repository. For example, make dir test, go into the directory git init, and let's create a new file, for example, vim test. You can see that the Powerline shows that I'm on the branch master, git branch master here. That's very nice. For example, if I create a new branch, git checkout b test, so I'm in a new branch test, and I open git again, it will say that I'm in the branch test. It is really helpful. So this is the Powerline. You can also see it here, and I have a system Powerline also, but in this tutorial I will show you how to install the Vim Powerline. Okay, so go back here. So how to install it? You need to, it's called Powerline is it's a package from, let's see, Vim Powerline. It's a local talk Vim Powerline. Oh, this is deprecated. Alright, so this Powerline is a Python program that needs to be installed in your system. I will include these links, but you can also Google it. So it looks like this, Vim status line, and yes, alright. So you need to install it. There is a guide. I will also put this link in the description of the video. So you need to have a Python, of course, and then you can install Python with Brew on on OS X, for example. Brew is a homebrew. It's called homebrew. It's a package manager. For example, like in Ubuntu there is apt-get, and then you can with pip is a Python package manager. You can install the Powerline. So just follow this command. It's a lot of things if you don't know what pip is or brew, but if you follow the commands closely, you will install it. So you just install Powerline, and yes, and it should work. Vim installation, and then you also need to include this as a Vim plugin, but I'll talk about this in a while. So this will install Powerline globally, and then you will also need to include it as a Vim plugin. But what is Vim plugin? So Vim plugin is a configuration file in Vim which adds some new things. For example, everything in Vim is configured in vim.vimrc in this file, right? But Vim has been here for us with us for a long time, for 20-30 years, I don't know exactly. So many people have made their own configuration files and additions to Vim. It can be easily extended. And they have published this on internet and called it plugins. So most of the plugins currently are developed on GitHub as a Git repository. And so you can install Git plugin very easily. Like you find a plugin and then you download it. And it's usually one configuration file. It's usually one text file. And you just include this file in the main vim.vimrc configuration file. You would include it like, I don't know how to include it, but yes, you just include the file in this .vimrc file. But it's very tiresome and not very good because, for example, if the plugin developer or developers update the plugin, you need to download it again, and yeah, so you need to work with it like this. So some good people, some really smart people created one Vim plugin which manages all other plugins. It's like the Lord of the Rings, the ring which rule them all. So it's called Vundle. It's written like this, Vundle, or I don't know how this is pronounced, but I call it Vundle. And this is the plugin. So Vundle plugin manager for Vim. Yes. And it is short for Vim bundle, and it's Vim plugin manager. So it allows you to keep track and configure your plugins in vimrc, install configured plugins, update configured, search by name all available Vim scripts. So yeah, it's a plugin manager. So how it works? You simply add some files into the beginning of the vim.vimrc file. These are the lines. So I will paste this link to the video description. So you just include some lines, and then you can write and then if you find the plugin is usually located on GitHub. So for example, let's install this Vim Fugitive plugin. Let's search for it on Google. So Vim Fugitive, and it's, yes, so this is the GitHub repository. So we need to copy this. This is the user, and this is the GitHub repository name. So let's copy this. All right, and let's go back here, and you just include this plugin and the name of the name of GitHub repository user, and then the plugin name. You just put this in your Vim RC configuration file, and then don't forget to call this Vundle and you need this part, and this part is mandatory for Vundle to work. And these are the plugins that you can install, any plugin you want. And if you have this, you just run a command like plugin install in Vim. So if I run plugin install and press enter, it will go through all of these plugins, and Vundle works like that. Vundle works like this. So it will go into your home directory, and there is a directory called .vim, and it stores all Vim configuration files and temporary files and stuff. And now it will store all the plugins in the bundle directory. So change directory bundle, and now here are all the plugins. As you can see, it's just a directory, and inside it is just a GitHub repository. So what Vundle really does is it finds the plugin on GitHub by the handle you include. So this is the handle, this is the plugin handle. It finds the plugin on GitHub, download it in a new folder. Folder is called by the plugin name, and clone the repository there. And lastly, it also includes the main plugin configuration file. Instead of this bundle, it will include the configuration file for the plugin. So you don't need to include the configuration file. This is enough. Just write the plugin name and run this command. And the reason why bundle is here and on the page there is written plugin is that I'm using old version of Vundle. So this is some 2 years old version, but I have just updated the version to newer one and updated my Git repository of dotfiles. So you can just use my vim dotfiles and it will work out of the box. So this is how you install Vim plugins. Just install Vundle. That's the first step. Install Vundle. Add these mandatory lines into the vimrc configuration file. So it's these lines, and then at the end, no, and I think I don't have it here. I don't have it in this file because this is the old Vundle, but it's these files and these two files required. It is written here that these are Vim comments. So it's so if you just follow the steps, you will know how to do this. Alright, so these are some Vim plugins, and now lastly, the last point in this tutorial was to show you some cool plugins, because when I started to configure my Vim, I really didn't know which plugins to install. I browsed the internet for like a week or two and looked for each plugin available, installed it and tried it. And a lot of them are really outdated, not updated, and not really useful, but some of them are really gold. So here are they. So first, it's a NERDTree. It's a plugin. You can also see I have opened tab with it. It's a Tree Explorer plugin for Vim. So it means that it will open a. You can really browse files in the. Oh, let's see how it looks. So if I press F12, it will open a sidebar. It's really just a Vim window, and you can switch between the windows with the Ctrl-L, Ctrl-H, L-H, like I showed you before in the configuration file. And these are the files in this directory. So it's really a sidebar with files. And to create a new file, I just press M. And here is some menu: add a child node, remove the child, current node, delete, and copy. So for example, add, I give it some name, and yes, and now I have a new file created. So to open the new file, just press enter, and I'm in the new file. Hello, save. Alright, and now open our outline. Cool, so this is NERDTree. It can also delete the file, so press M again and press D to delete the file, and yes, and now it is deleted. Very good. If you want to close the sidebar, you can just press F12 again. So that's NERDTree. Then CtrlP is really a really powerful plugin. It's no, this is not it. CtrlP, this is it. It's a fuzzy file buffer, and it's Finder. It's simply a finder like you have in Sublime Text or other editors. So let me show you how it works. So I have mapped this CtrlP plugin to my leader F, and now if this opens some command line, and if I type, for example, how to, it will filter all the available files in this directory in the project and fuzzy search in it some code. And for example, I can open this file, and let's oh no entries, Vim plugins, how to code plugins. For example, I don't need to write exact word. I just write something, and it will search across all the file in the current directory, so I can open it. Yes, so it's really useful, this CtrlP. If you have many files, for example, if you have a JavaScript or HTML project with many CSS files, many HTML files, and you really don't want to open them with NERDTree and search across all the directory and so you really want to use this CtrlP for it. Then Syntactic. Syntactic is a syntax checking hex for Vim. So basically you have some files, for example JavaScript files or CSS files, and it will simply check these files for syntax error, and it will write the errors like this. So for example, you have some C++ code, and this is some function, and it will write that second argument of main should be har with double stars, and so it really checks the file for syntax errors. It really helps you because Vim has no syntax checking by default. Then there is delimitmate. Delimitmate is a plugin for, where it is, this here. Vim plugin provides insert mode auto-completion for quotes, parents, brackets. So if you for example, let's open some JavaScript file, some code.js, and if I write some, for example, function hello or some else test, and write the first bracket, it will complete the second bracket for me, and it also works for the curly brackets. You see, I have both brackets. I don't need to write the closing bracket. The delimitmate writes it for me. So standard editors such as Sublime Text have this by default, but Vim doesn't come with this behavior by default, so you need plugins for everything. But when you install the plugins, Vim is fine. Now let's go back to our file. Now, for example, some plugins for language support. Because by default, Vim has some really poor syntax highlighting support for languages. If you want more support like snippets and code completion and stuff, you need to install language specific plugins for Vim. So there are plugins for JavaScript, Ruby, PHP, etc. For all the major languages, there is some plugin, I bet. For example, I'm using Vim JavaScript, it's this line, Vim CoffeeScript, I don't know, like Vim Ruby. Each language I use a plugin for it. And then there is Emmet. I don't know if you know what Emmet is, or Zen coding, but it's basically for writing better HTML. So you just it's shortcut for HTML. So let's see how it works. So let's create a new HTML file. Create a new file, test.html, and if I open it, I can write, for example, HTML:5 and press tab. Oh no! Oh, how it is? I forgot how the shortcut is used. But for example, if I write some div class, press tab, oh, it doesn't work. Maybe I need to use some mapping, which I forgot to look before doing this video. But if you know what Emmet or Zen coding is, it works like, for example, here is a video. So instead of writing the full HTML, you just write some Ctrl Y. So let's try Ctrl plus Y. No, doesn't work. So it's basically for writing HTML in a better way, like with shortcuts. You don't need to write, for example, this. If it worked, this would transform into div class, some div class, and div, like this. I'm using the Emmet in PHP Storm, and it works out of the box with tabs. So I'm sorry guys, but I don't know the exact command for in Vim how to complete the shortcut, but it's really easy. You can look it in the configuration file. Maybe I could find it here. Emmet. Let's search for it. No, it is not here. I don't know. Doesn't matter now. And then let's see. The last plugin I use, very important plugin, is YouCompleteMe. It's used for code completion. So this is the plugin. It's code completion engine for Vim. I think this is the most advanced code completion engine for Vim. There are plenty of them, but I've tried many of them, but YouCompleteMe is the most full-featured one. For example, if I open this, I wanted to open the JavaScript file, this one. Oh no, this is the HTML file, JavaScript file. I can just write and it will complete. I just press tab and it suggests this. Or I can write, for example, console.log and it will complete it. So it is code completion, and it has support for many languages, all the C-like languages like JavaScript, PHP, or Python, or Ruby, or any other. So you should really install this. All right, so let's wrap it up. Let's wrap this up. So this is how Vim plugins work. So it's basically some configuration files which are then included in the vimrc file, and it adds some new functionality to Vim. Without plugins, Vim is quite bare and it is not really useful for doing some coding. But if you install all these plugins in Vim, it is really possible to code in Vim. Sometimes I use it as a full-featured code editor. But yeah. Alright, so I hope you like this video, and don't forget to look into the video description. I'm including the links to all these plugins and my GitHub repository with my Vim configuration file with this one. And also, yes, that's it. That should be it. Alright guys, see you next time and have a nice weekend. Bye.